I hope all three of you actually playing the update are enjoying your time. For the rest of you, here's something to watch while you play Baldur's Gate, Armored Core, or Starfield. Today, Ikkitt is going to be facing off against Cathay with some of their new tools. He is, of course, coming for weapons inspection to make sure there's no intellectual property theft happening here. And Cathay has responded with hostility. Who is surprised? Certainly not me, so... Anyway, for my side here, we've got Ikkitt on his Doom Wheel, of course. We've got a couple of Doom Flares, 3 Jezzails, the Avalanche Mortars, and a couple of Poisoned Wind Globadiers. Yeah, so I'm trying to go as much Clan Squire themed as possible. Doom Flares in particular, I'm not kind of a little bit of a meme unit. Oh yeah, we also have the Warp Grinder for hard snares in the center. Clan Vulcan's Tail Slashers, and plenty of Skaven Slaves scattered around, and yeah, that's basically it for Okoy's Cathay. I have to say also, big props to Okoy for getting quite the viral hit with his halflings blowing up the Goblin Camp video for Halfling Barbarians. Yeah, that was a all-time classic for sure. You guys go check it out if you haven't. I would imagine that pretty much all of you have seen that video already, though. So anyway, let's just get on to his build here. He's got the Celestial General, Sky Junk. He's got Jade Lion and Jet Lion here. Some Jade Crossbows, some Jade Warriors, and Jade Halberds on the flanks. Crowman already swooping out to do a little bit of scouting around. Make sure there's no Skaven funny business happening. And the rockets are trying to get in contact with the avalanche mortars, but given their kind of spread nature, really not doing too much damage yet. Let's see. Avalanche mortar is going to open up a little bit. And just... yeah. just rain death on those Jade Warriors. Skaven's one of the factions, actually, I feel like in land battles that can consistently compete with Cathay, and now obviously Okoy didn't scale very heavily into shooting, but I mean, if Cathay like goes full cannons plus crane guns, maybe they can outshoot Skaven, but at that point you should have enough tools to swarm in and still kind of try and take them out in that way. But yeah, the Crowmen are going to swoop down, get on these avalanche mortars. Ikkitt immediately responds, and rockets continue to fly in as well. Yeah, Okoy committing heavily to try and take out these avalanche mortars, which definitely makes sense, even if he sacrifices both Crowmen. I mean, I think that's still reasonably cost-effective, as long as he can get rid of the avalanche mortars. Also sends his Jade Lions, Jet Lion forward. A little bit of a missile mirror there. Wow, just kills one of the Jezzails. I didn't even notice that while it was happening in battle, which is kind of hilarious. But the Lions do end up taking pretty decent amount of damage. That said, he's got his crossbows. Jade Warriors moving into combat now. And Celestial General also got some pretty nice sweeping attack animations. Yeah, let's see. Maybe he'll do some. Maybe. A little bop there. As the flares also move in, we're going to try and target the anti-large infantry, obviously, as much as possible. But despite everything, I mean, Jade Lions took substantial damage, but are still able to kind of penetrate into the second level here, get on those Jezzails, and start to shut them down to a degree. Celestial Generals also pursuing Ikkitt. Honestly, yeah, the best thing for me to do with Ikkitt is to kite here, given that Ikkitt's the best missile cavalry in the game, as I like to say. His multi-shot Doom Wheel does an insane amount of missile damage, so it's totally fine if the Celestial General wants to chase. Looks like Okoy chooses not to, instead sticking near the back line to try and make sure he can finish off Jezzails. Another missile mirror there as they shield breaker and shoot themselves. Just fantastic use of that, must be said. The Jet Lion, yeah, it's I don't know if it's necessarily paid for itself, but it's definitely here. Jade Lion also is definitely here. They've managed to pressure away most of my weapons teams, other than, of course, the globes. The nice cheap glows kind of flying under the radar a little bit. Relatively small lapse in micro for Ikkitt. Shouldn't be too much of an issue. The crossbows will do some pretty substantial damage, but got plenty of support nearby. Unfortunately, yeah, I did have a war drum there, which was kind of put into a little bit of tactical reserve. But hey, at least it was providing harmony for the Sky Junk. But anyway, yeah, Globadiers continuing to rain some death. Avalanche Mortars do come back from route briefly before the Jade Lion's able to get on them. I do think, you know, initially I wasn't sold on Turin's suggestion that the Lions should get Terror, but actually given their cost, I don't know, I think it might be fine to give them terror, honestly. I hesitate to advocate for too much more power for Cathay, because they're already quite strong if you play them correctly. Obviously, they've been losing a lot in early access. That's more just to people playing around more than anything else, and experimenting with new stuff, because kind of very bog standard Cathayan builds tend to be the strongest. So when you experiment and play around and try and have fun is when Cathay starts to have some problems. But anyway, Jade Line here, it's trying its best to eat as many Jezzails as possible before it goes down, but Jezzails keep coming back from route in the distance, and so poor Lion just freezes up, doesn't even topple over, just freezes up and lays there. Which is a really, really sad ending, to be honest. Top 5 saddest anime endings of all time. Coming from someone who doesn't even really like anime. I know, I'm sorry. Anyway, let's get back to happier times like these bumper cars. Ikkitt Claw, clearly not impressed by the craftsmanship of the Jianghu War Drum, or lack thereof, is going to cycle charge, blast with his lasers, and just generally disrespect the crew of the drum there. A little brass orb out in the distance, and the Cathay is getting pretty thin on the ground. Skyjunk's managed to use up all of its ammunition and only 500 value, which is just Skaven things, to be honest. Like, yeah, Skyjunk's and the rocket type units in general, they tend to have a hard time. You might think actually they're really good against Skaven spread formations, and to a degree they can be, but given their cost, it's pretty painful, honestly. All things considered, a little Flensing Ruin from Ikkitt should be able to finish it off. I mean, yeah, a little blast, a little bit of friendly fire from the globes on those Skaven slaves as well, which is obviously the most Skaven thing to do. And Ikkitt moving in once again with the spinning blades. Actually, does the Doom Wheel have any spinning blades on the front, or is it just all static blades? Not really. Anyway, interesting. It was a fun one. Not necessarily the most quote-unquote competitive of battles, but it was still a fun one, and I mostly also just wanted to shout out Boy, because I like to see when, you know, somebody who is a legendary memer from the Total War community, obviously with his 19 stack videos, just absolutely crushing it with Baldur's Gate as well. Really nice to see, actually. And it was a fun game, even if it wasn't necessarily the most competitive. You know, Clan Scryer themed builds are generally pretty strong, I learned, in this matchup. Yeah, I mean, the Jezzails all get some pretty good value, despite Akoi doing a pretty decent job in shutting them down. Of course, globes are just insanely cost-effective. The Avalanche Mortars did not actually pay for themselves, despite looking very promising early on, and then Doomflayers are definitely a unit that exist. Yeah, not a lot else to say about my build on Akoi's side. Yeah, the Jade Lion, the Jet Lion, both got some pretty good value. The Jet Lion actually doesn't really show a lot because it got good missile mirror value on those Jezzails, which should be showing on that card, but, I mean, yeah, anyway, not necessarily should be showing, like, from a mechanics perspective, but it would be nice to see, maybe put it that way. The Crowmen, though, definitely do a great job, and certainly I would go for Crowmen in this matchup. Generally, I would say any matchup where you feel your opponent might try to outshoot you is the best matchups. Well, I would say also that and defending against enemy light cavalry for your own range units, which isn't necessarily applicable to this matchup, but again, this is one of the few matchups where Skaven can try to outshoot Grand Cathay, and if you're not prepared for it, it can definitely be quite a painful experience. So I really like the Crowmen in this matchup for sure. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.